Hi guys, my name is Rowlands. I'm a nutritional balancing practitioner, and in this video I'm going to talk about some of the reasons why people stop the program. I'm also going to talk about some of the reasons why people can't really fully start the program, and hopefully it'll give you some ideas on how you can move forward, how you can keep on going. Maybe you can relate to some of this. But in general, especially in the natural health area of healing, it is difficult for people to keep sticking to a program. It's understandable. For the most part, a lot of people have been to doctors, psychiatrists over and over and over again, so they're already lacking in trust when they start anything to do with natural healing. And another one of the big problems is that we live in a quick fix society, so medicine and the medical industry kind of live off this quick fix mindset, and unfortunately that's not how the world works. So that is another big problem that people have, is just assuming that things are going to get fixed quickly. But I'll go into that further in this video. So the first thing, probably the main one that makes people stop the nutritional balancing program, is the feelings of tiredness and exhaustion, especially in the beginning of the program. Now there's a really simple answer to why this happens. I wish people would really understand it more, because they're really doing themselves an injustice, because it really is super important, and the biggest reason why people quit. In simple terms, for the most part, most people are running on stimuli. It might be fear, it might be worry, it might be anger, it might be working too hard, it might be caffeine, it might be drugs, it might be alcohol, it might be sugar, it might be exercise. They're all doing this as a compensation for feeling bad underneath. It might be fruit. You might have a really so-called healthy lifestyle that's stimulating you, but you're feeling really bad. Fruit can do that. Even maybe a vegan diet could potentially do that. So a lot of the times you're unaware of the exhaustion and the fatigue inside. Again, and it's a mindset that people have, unfortunately, in this day and age, is that for some reason they just do not understand that their body is really ill and really sick and really tired, and they find it difficult to really understand that. So what happens is, when you start a nutritional balancing program, what it does is all of that scaffolding and all the stimuli that you've put up around yourself will fall away. We get people to stop having sugar. We get people to slow down, so basically really stop exercise. We get people to meditate, which slows them down. Do saunas, which is slowing down and relaxing. Enemas is the same. And this is really just to remove all the stimuli that was keeping a person from not healing, from getting themselves worse and running themselves ragged. And what that does is that allows the inner exhaustion that's been hiding for the most part for years and years to come out, and people get scared. And people, I'll get in touch with people after a few months, and I'll say, I haven't heard from you, what's going off, and a lot of the time they'll say they got too tired, they was too exhausted, and they thought it wasn't working, when in reality it is working. It happened to me. I was actually shocked at, mentally and physically shocked at the fatigue and tiredness that I experienced when I removed the stimuli from my life. It was quite overwhelming, really, to say the least. But luckily for me, I read the articles, kept in touch with my practitioner. I understood, for the most part, what was going off, and that's what kept me going. Again, common sense would say, if you're suffering from adrenal burnout, which I would say the vast majority of people are, often in the exhaustion stage of stress, to heal something like that means taking rest and relaxing. And if the adrenals are exhausted, then naturally, if you're not stimulating the adrenals, you're going to feel exhausted. So that's probably the biggest reason why people quit. That's probably the second biggest reason, is not understanding how healing reactions work. Healing reactions are a real thing. If you're not getting healing reactions, doing any health protocol, in my opinion, is not working. It's probably not working. And again, there's a very simple answer, there's a very simple explanation and understanding as to why people get healing reactions. Our bodies today are literally full of toxins and chemicals. They're everywhere. Not one hair analysis program test comes back without showing some form of metal toxicity, and it doesn't even account for all the thousands of chemicals that are in the body. Um, if you was to feel all these on an acute level all at once, if it was all in the blood, all this toxicity, you would most certainly die. The body does a very clever thing, and what it does is it deals with these toxins and chemicals by pushing them deep into cells, into bones. If they really like, traveling around the blood, or circulating a lot around the brain, then you would die. That's plain and simple. The amount of toxins and chemicals inside a person is overwhelming, and the body does its best to keep itself going by pushing these toxins and chemicals into the body. Other healing reactions are things like the liver or another gland might need extra time to heal, so you would need extra rest. However, what happens, the program is primarily a detox program. That's another thing that people need to understand. And naturally, if you're on a detox program, you're going to detox. And what happens is the chemicals and the toxins that are deep inside the cells will be removed from the cells to be eliminated properly by the body, and temporarily these toxins will go into the bloodstream. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist for anyone to say, how would you feel if you had mercury running around your bloodstream? How would you feel if you had arsenic running around, or copper, or lead, or manganese? How would you feel? You're not going to feel good. It's going to flare up. Often it flares up old illnesses that the toxins kind of exasperated. So, for example, skin conditions are always related to copper, and they kind of lie dormant, a lot of them, because the body cannot fully heal them. And when copper's removed from that specific area, maybe of the skin or whatever, temporarily that skin problem will get worse, as it probably did maybe at the time when you first got it, until the body tried to deal with it by putting copper somewhere else, putting it in tissues. But the skin problem doesn't really go away. It's kind of just dormant, or it's just kind of bubbling over, treading water, and all of a sudden the copper will come out of the system where the body tried to push it down, and you'll get a flare up. It might be skin, it might be an ear infection, could be all sorts. One of my knee joints once seized up. I used to get eczema on the back of my legs, that came back temporarily. Sinus infection. So, this happens to a person, people freak out and they think they're getting worse, and it's understandable. The amount of healing reactions I've been through, countless, and I'm still going through them now, 6 years later. People don't realise the amount of toxicity inside a body is unbelievable. And, a lot of toxins will be replaced by healthy minerals. So, for example, cadmium tends to replace zinc as like the preferred mineral, and so cadmium, although it's not good for the body, it's replaced zinc, so it kind of can do the job. It's a little bit like, if zinc is the perfect spanner for the nut, cadmium is maybe just a little bit bigger. It doesn't quite do the job, but it does the job enough to keep you alive. So obviously the body doesn't want to release that straight away. You need more zinc for the body to like, okay, now I can switch out the cadmium for the zinc. So it's really complex. I've heard that it can take 1 year just for one mineral to be replaced. So so I suppose that could lead me on to the next one, which is the time it takes to heal. Again, we live in this quick fix society where people are expected to take a pill or do a diet or do a fad, do this, Atkins diet, or, paleo diet, cleansing, fruitarianism, whatever. They just think they can do this diet, this fad, and everything will be fine. Now, think about it. If there was something out there that made you feel great 24/7 with no side effects, you was fine, consistently for years, that would spread like wildfire. The reason why there's so many different variants of things to do to heal is because there isn't something out there that just does everything all at once perfectly, and you don't have to worry about things. Like, if that was the case, then everyone would be doing it, because it'd be simple. It'd be like, well, do this diet, All you got to do is follow it, and you'll feel absolutely perfect for the rest of your life. You know, if there was something like that out there, if there was a pill out there or a healing modality or something like that, then all the other stuff that doesn't quite work 100% would just be gone. You know, so you need to realize that there's nothing out there that's going to fix your problem probably overnight. It doesn't work like that. You're fixing the most complex, arguably the most complex thing in the universe. This is a complex system. You know, like it's just common sense. You know, the amount of complexity that you've got in here, it's just unbelievable. And not only do you have to live inside the body has to live day in, day out, but it also has to go through this process of detoxing and healing itself as well. That takes time. And people don't want to deal with that, you know. I'm still healing now, 6 years later. I'm pretty sure I will be after 10 years, probably after 15, 20 years. Healing lasts a lifetime. Yeah, I'm way, way, way better than what I was, you know, but I still have problems. There's still things that are niggling, you know, that are not 100%, but I understand that it takes time to heal, and you should get out of the mindset of I will be. You never really fully heal in a sense. You're always exploring. It's the journey really that's the most important thing. So you need to stop thinking about when I will heal. The good thing, hopefully, with the nutrition balancing program is you do see improvements quickly, or you see some form of improvements. And I suppose this leads me onto another point, which is people stop the program because their main symptom doesn't go first or initially, and which is a shame because they might get improved blood sugar, they might get improved energy, they might get improved skin, but their main condition that they was really worried about doesn't go, so they'll just think something's wrong and they'll go and do something else, which is really not logical. The body fixes itself in its own order. You know, it has its own wisdom, and you know they call it teleology, and you know your main symptom might not be an important one. The body wants to survive and it needs to fix the most important ones first, and you're probably not even aware of what's the most important for the body inside, and that's why it's taking longer for the main symptom to go. So you need to not think like that. You need to think, you know, am I improving? It might be mentally. It might just get a little bit more clear. You might get, you might release a trauma. You know, so all these are improvements that you need to be aware of. Having a healing reaction is an improvement. Even getting tired is an improvement. And again, you can lead on from that to having trust or faith in the program, which is difficult, because how can you have faith in something that seems on the surface just like everything else that you've tried? For me, I don't know what it was about Dr. Wilson's website, but he just was super thorough in what he said, and the fact that he has over 1,500 articles just gave me a lot of trust. He has a lot of audiobooks that gave me a lot of trust. What he said in the articles, for me, made sense. It was just logical. Some of the stuff he used to, when he talked about fruit and yin and yang and meat eating, it was just logical. It was just like, well, that sounds right. You know, you don't even need science really to understand it on a common sense level. It just makes sense. You know, hopefully these YouTube videos are helping build trust. You know, it's important really to try and see past maybe superficial things and listen to a person's heart, listen to a person's story. You know, how do they answer questions? You know, do they answer questions in a logical way? You know, all these things will hopefully build trust. You know, often these fancy doctors, these fancy holistic practitioners with these beautiful websites, you know, all this kind of stuff, it's like, can you really trust them? You know, for me, I always think to myself, well, healing takes time and effort, and you know, if you're worrying about Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and your image and your beautiful website and your newsletter, how can you really have time? And you've got all these clients, like, how can you have time to heal? And you know, like, they won't go into things thoroughly, and you know, just trusting your gut instinct as well. Is, you know, having a hair mineral analysis for me is very trustworthy because it's a scientific thing. It's, you know, there's actually like some science, you know, backed things, which is really interesting. So, you know, building trust and faith is difficult, and you've kind of got to have faith in this program. And I suppose I'll speak a little bit about that later on. Another problem, people get swayed by their parents, friends, other doctors, other holistic practitioners, you know, who don't understand things. They'll see, you know, the child or whatever, they'll go for a healing reaction, or they'll get more tired, and it's just so easy to say, oh, look, it's not working, you're getting more tired. You're having, you know, you're having a flare up of this condition, and it just, like, they just get swayed. If they're ill, they're tired, they don't want arguments, they've got a toxic brain, struggle to think for themselves, and they'll just stop the program because of a parent or a friend or a doctor or a teacher. And it's a shame, because often, a lot of the times when they're feeling like this, it's because it's a positive change. And yeah, that happens quite a lot, unfortunately. Another issue that people have is that they don't do retests properly. This is a big one, and it's difficult for practitioners because, you know, there's two things in one here. Is money. For whatever reason, and I used to get it a lot. You know, so it's the reason why I do YouTube videos and I stay off social media, is that you'll give some advice, but then everyone just expects you to give advice to help for free, and you can't do that. It's impossible. Like, if someone would like to make a donation, or to fund me to work for free, I can do. So, you know, you'll get people like, oh, he's just wanting to take your money, he's just a snake oil person, blah 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 blah. So I personally think that the prices that us practitioners provide is really cheap. Whatever your practitioner, whatever their price is, please be aware that there's a fairly big percentage of that gets taken off for the hair analysis and the 30-page booklet. And then you get support, email support, Skype, phone calls, free videos, members area. You know, so it's really good value for money, in general. But yeah, we recommend we shouldn't really say recommend it. We should say actually you need to do retests every 3 to 6 months, and it's a little bit awkward sometimes because people are like, oh, is he just wanting money out of me? You know, blah 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 blah. When in reality, the truth of the matter is, the nutritional balancing program is very, very precise. I mean, even now, I'm starting to learn more and more and more how beautifully precise this program is, and that's why it is really, really important to do tests after 3 months. Really, you know, any longer than that, you might be getting yourself into some trouble, because, you know, if you're in fast oxidation, for example, we want to bring you down to slow. If you're in slow, you want to bring you up to fasting. Your body chemistry can shift. It really can shift. Honestly, body chemistry can shift overnight. It's quite scary how that can shift. And if you're not doing retests, you could be doing the wrong supplements and going down the wrong path and genuinely feeling worse. And you know, like, I understand that. I mean, even me, about 3 or 4 weeks back, I started feeling really bad all of a sudden, and because I'm a practitioner, I figured out, my oxidation rate must have slowed down because I was doing this and this, and luckily I shifted things around quickly, and I started feeling better, and I thought, you know what, if I was a client, I would not have no idea what was going off, and I would feel like I was getting worse. So yeah, retests, super important. A lot of people will stop the program because they haven't retested really, and they're on the wrong program now. That was 6, 7, 8 months ago. So yeah, that is a bit of a shame. So another point is that people need to be a little bit open-minded with this program. It is out there. It is esoteric. I believe it to be the truth. Unfortunately, we live in this. I think science is great, but I feel like science is maybe yang, and consciousness, intuition, you know, that little voice within, you know, miracles, guidance, you know, how the body fixes, how the body's has a certain wisdom, consciousness, God, all this other stuff that is it's the opposite of science, but it's just needed, in my opinion. I believe in 50, 100, 200 years' time, there's going to be emergence of science and consciousness, because we've got the yang, we've got the yin, and they come together beautifully. So for a lot of people that are very not yang-minded, but scientifically minded, they don't like the esoteric aspects of it. You've got to be a little bit open-minded. There's a lot of stuff out there that people don't understand. Things like, the use of energies, chakras, cybernetics, loads of different things. And people get scared about that. They see an article on chakras, or they'll see an article on ether, and they'll just think, oh, this is not for me. I urge anyone to be a little bit open-minded. The world, in my opinion, is not what you think. As you heal, as your mind gets better, you'll start to realise actually, a lot of what Dr. Wilson, what we talk about on the YouTube channel is the truth, and you'll realise it's the truth because you'll have direct experiences with it. I can feel chakras now. I mean, I can feel them. It's not in my head. I genuinely can feel them. You get intuitions and guidance and, trauma releases where coincidences happen, and a variety of different things that just mean or makes me realise that there's a higher power. It's the reason why we have all the major religions, although they've all, for the most part, been took out of context. But, all the religions, in my opinion, say similar things at the core. And they're there because they were real and they're truthful and they've stood the test of time. That's what's good thing about humanity, is that if things are no good, they don't stand the test of time. And, religion has stood the test of time. And in my opinion, there's getting a restructuring of religion at the moment, and there's a more of a Christ consciousness coming through, and it's pushing out all the old silly dogmas that have made their way into religions, and stupid ideas and things have been taken out of context. And I believe that there's a revolution of mindsets, and I think a lot of it's because of various different things, but I think a lot of it is because of the illness and the toxicity of most people of today, and they're questioning things. Only in the past 5 years, people are starting to question the media because they're realising it's a load of rubbish. People are really questioning the government. They're questioning the medical healthcare, pharmaceuticals, big companies, the financial system, and in my opinion, all this is truth, and it's just allowing, questioning religion, how religion is taught, and I think it's great. I think there's a revolution of the minds, and I think it's really important. So you need to be really open-minded for this program. Another thing is you need to be a bit nitty-gritty. Don't be squeamish. Bit of a warrior. It's going to be challenging. It's not easy to run a marathon. There's the short, there's a long narrow path, or the short broad path. This has been known for years. You got to be willing to put up with a bit of hardship. You got to get down on your knees and get dirty sometimes. You've got to not be squeamish when you see parasites and bad thoughts and the way that you treat others and toxic relationships. None of this is helpful. You got to be a bit of a warrior, a modern day warrior. It's not going out fighting people, but it's being a warrior of your own sovereignty, of your own responsibility. And it's all about taking back your power that we've given away for the most part to culture and society. Another problem that people have is they're not honest with themselves and the practitioner. So, they'll lie to themselves about their diet or how well they're resting, and they'll lie to the practitioner, and that causes problems because it confuses the person, it confuses the practitioner. and then they'll just quit because really they're just lying to themselves and they're in denial for the most part of the way that they're doing the program, which is unfortunate. Another one really which relates to what I've just said about being sovereign and taking full responsibility is sometimes people expect a little bit too much from a practitioner. They want their hand holding a little bit too much. Obviously it is our job to guide and be there and be helpful, but it's really important that we have got to look after ourselves as well. We have got our own healing and our own time, and I think the value is really, really important. And some people expect phone calls every day and send long emails every day, and it's not realistic to think like that. We keep our prices cheap in order to help a lot of people, and we can only do our best. And sometimes when you're expecting a little bit too much from a practitioner, it's a little bit not realistic. It's about taking some responsibility for yourself. The only reason why I've healed so much is because I've studied, read Dr. Wilson's website, listened to videos, read articles, and took it upon myself. I didn't give all of my power away to my practitioner, expecting them to fix me. It's not our job to fix people. It's just our job to give guidance and help and support. And that relates to victimhood. The opposite of taking full responsibility for yourself is playing the victim, and it's when you give away your power and you become a victim and expect your practitioner to fix you, then that's not the right way of going about it. And I know a lot of people that just go from practitioner to practitioner to practitioner, and it takes a while for them to realise what they're going through, and then often they'll come back to their original practitioner because they'll realise actually they wasn't doing a bad job. It was them that was struggling to take some responsibility for themselves. So that's quite common actually, is you'll get people do a hair test and then they'll leave, and then you've heard that they've gone somewhere else and then potentially somewhere else, and then after a while they'll realise actually that they needed to take a bit of responsibility for themselves, and do their own learning. So there's kind of a group of people or groups of people that struggle to start right from the offset. So a lot of people second guess the program, which is again understandable. When you've moved away from the pharmaceutical medical industry, you kind of do your own research, and you do a little bit of research on the paleo diet and the Atkins diet and fruitarianism, and you think you know a lot. I'm not denying that you don't know a lot, but it's important to realise that this nutrition balancing program has been developed over 40 years. Dr. Wilson has worked with hundreds of thousands of clients, hundreds of thousands of hair tests. You see his website's got 1,500 articles. He gets emails every single day. He gets updates from practitioners. So he's seen what works and what doesn't work, and it's very, very, very precise. It's the reason why it's important to do retests. It's extremely precise. The program, I cannot tell you how precise it is. So a lot of people will second guess. They'll think that they know better. They'll do something else. They'll do this. They'll do that, which is a shame because they'll go off track and they'll try something else, and it's making them feel worse. And then sometimes they'll lie to themselves and in denial speak to a practitioner and not really tell them what they've been doing extra, and it just gets confusing sometimes. So I second guessed a lot, and it's so easy to do, especially when you're going for healing reactions and stuff. Am I doing things right, etc., etc. Looking back on it now, if I was to do it all again, I would probably get to know the supplements really well, because the supplements do a really good job at keeping you balanced. So the supplements can lean you off or take you back on track. So I'd probably really get to know the supplements really, really well, because that helps you understand what's going off better. But I understand how hard it is really for second guessing, but it's about, after a while, you need to just come to the understanding that I don't know everything, and which is a nice thing really, because you can kind of give away, surrender a little bit to the program. It's a little bit like surrendering to God, and having faith and just going, okay, I know a lot, but I don't know everything, and I just need to let go. And it just really helps take the pressure off things a little bit. It doesn't mean don't think for yourself, but just don't be too kind of overthinking things too much, because it just gets in the way often. If you're stuck in sympathetic dominance, etc. Moving on from that, similar to the second guesses, is researchers. People are constantly researching different things on the internet. Again, it's easy to do. They'll research one thing, try it out, research this, try it out, research this, and often it kind of just messes up the program a little bit. Easily gets swayed onto this new fad. Lewis, have you tried this? Have you tried this? And you're kind of just thinking to yourself, just don't stop worrying about that. Just stick to the program and things will be much better. Sometimes it helps. It's a hard one. It's a hard balance, really. It's good to research things. I'm into something called Memon. That got researched, but I use my common sense again, and it's just something that kind of builds inside a little bit. Then I listen to people I respect, blah blah, and tried it out a little bit and it worked. Other things just, for whatever reason, just don't feel right when I look into them and stuff. And if you look at Dr. Wilson's articles and you kind of just come to a wise decision. Yeah, but some people are just like chronic researchers. Actually, they'll just research so much, and kind of it's just aimless researching, and yeah, it kind of just doesn't help really, because the program is so precise, and it is quite important to have most of your mindset just. Oh, sorry, I got a phone call. Some people are just like terrified and scared of doing the program. A lot of this is to do with copper toxicity. A lot of it's to do with old traumas. A lot of it's they're just scared of life because they can't handle it too well. Their adrenal glands are shot, so they're just scared of everything. Scared of enemas, scared of saunas, scared of supplements. So that's a difficult one. Something that you just kind of got to try and navigate a little bit, work through slowly. Some people are just not very disciplined. They haven't got a good willpower. It does take discipline to do the program, to do coffee enemas, saunas, do the diet, rest, meditate. It's a lot of self-discipline that needs to be cultivated. So that can be a challenge for a lot of people. Some people are just brainwashed, we call them. Just stuck in some sort of dogma. It might be like veganism dogma or fruitarianism, some sort of cult, some religious dogma that's too much, and they're brainwashed, and they think that, for whatever reason, the program's too new age or wishy-washy or whatever, just struggle to get out of that mindset that they're stuck in, instead of just being open and just being sovereign with their own minds, and just kind of don't take things at face value too much. I understand the people's dilemma. It's an interesting one to navigate a little bit. As you do the program, you become more trustworthy and stuff, just to keep moving forwards. And the final one, of people unfortunately that are disabled, they struggle a lot for various reasons. It's difficult to do enemas, difficult to do saunas often. Sometimes it's difficult to get the right food because they're having other people cook for them. This is an unfortunate one. I've seen it a couple of times. The best thing to do in that situation is just try and do as much as you can. It's better than nothing. So that's everything. I was going to move on to another section called troubleshooting. It's things that you can do to troubleshoot the program if you're struggling in the moment. But I think I'm going to do a different video on that rather than add it to the end of this one. So anyway, thanks for watching. If you've got any questions or you'd like to start the Nutritional Balancing Program, don't hesitate to send me an email, lewis@deephealingspace.com. I hope that's helped a few people, and I hope it's going to help you kind of move forwards a little bit if you are struggling with anything, or if you have stopped. Trust me, keep going. You'll be grateful that you did. And yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll speak soon. Cheers.